maybe after a few episodes, we're gonna get even more bored. Then
after a few drinks.
And then the 2 or 3 people watching will stop watching.
So the next text we're looking at is The Limits of Westernization, A Cultural History of America in Turkey by Perin E. Gürel. And so this volume comes to us having been published by Columbia University Press last year, and continuing with the theme of what we've seen, except in this case, rather than looking at a kind of a diplomatic history between the US and the Middle East, we're looking more at a kind of a cultural exchange, or a history of the cultural exchange. I'll go over maybe just some of the chapter headings about this theme of Westernization, but looking at it purely through the kind of the US gaze. Chapter 1 is titled Narrating the Mandate, Selective Westernization and Official History. Chapter 2 is Allegorizing America over Westernization in the Turkish Novel. Chapter 3, Humoring English, Wild Westernization and Anti-American Folklore. Chapter 4, Figuring Sexualities, Inadequate Westernization and Rights Activism, followed by a postscript, Reconfiguring Culture in U.S.-Middle East Relations. So it comes in at just 4 pages with an epilogue. Do you want to add anything about this title, Bassami?
Actually, I am not aware of this title, and I usually, as a rule, I don't trust anyone who has 2 dots on any of the letters in their names, especially the ones above. But this book has been praised by Jamil Aydin, who is actually a friend of mine, and he has been at the same university I was in before he moved to Chapel Hill. Really good stuff. I think we decided not to talk about the praise or not to talk about the books in too much of an editorialized manner. I think, you know, this is so far working, but maybe after a few episodes we're gonna get even more bored. Then
after a few drinks.
And then the 2 or 3 people watching will stop watching. So we have to be careful. The second person is also a friend of mine, Brian Edwards, the author of The American Century. Actually, are we doing this today?
Yeah.
We're doing another book by Brian. And then it's also reviewed by Melanie McAllister, and she is the author of Epic Encounters, Culture, Media, and U.S. Interests in the Middle East since '45. We haven't, did we do media last time, or we did Arab uprisings? We did a couple of books on the media. We need to do one show on one episode on the media. Okay, so no, this is really interesting. The idea of Westernization, I think, requires a much more delicate and critical treatment, because of the conflation between Westernization and modernization. Everything that is good is considered Western and Westernized, and that seeps to the academic discourses. So I look forward to actually catching up on this, to include it, or include some parts of it in the work that I do in my class on the overview of the Middle East, where Turkey is a topic. Any other issues, ideas about teaching this book that you want to bring up, or shall we move on? Nadya?
I mean, I'm not familiar with this particular author or with this particular subfield, but what I will say, I think, is worth noting about the book is that it actually looks at the US in the Turkish imagination, like within, it's actually the Turkish gaze on the US as opposed to the other way around, which I think is an interesting way to approach these questions of modernization and Westernization.
Awesome. And it's published by Columbia University.